Okay.
Postures and gestures.
Yeah, postures and gestures. Like, somebody comes to you and they try to tell you their problem, but the way your body reacts, like, facial expressions or your body movements, right? If you hold the hand of the other person, he feels that yes, you are listening to him. Okay, and otherwise no, but that is a different one. Strategic in the sense, you try to when the communication is not to the mark, or when it becomes unsuccessful due to many reasons, and those reasons you really try to restore your communication. You want to continue your communication, but the other person listener might not be ready because he had misunderstood your message. But you try to give clarification in a very strategic way. Okay, so these are certain things you need to think of. And teacher's role, always a teacher should be a facilitator and learner should be the active receiver. And active you should actively participate in the class. Both the teacher and the learner plays very important roles in this approach. And the materials which can be used in this are text-based, task-based, and realia. Text-based, like, the textbooks that we have in our degree and other things, we can just go by that, which again are of two types: communicate and like here they have given examples on page 201. Communicate by Morrow and Johnson. This text consists of visual cues, taped cues, pictures, and.
Ma'am, is it the book written by Morrow and Johnson?
Yes, communicate. Okay. These things are included in that. They have just given you example for text-based material. Pair work by Watson Jones, which consists of information on role plays and other pair work activities. Then task-based material. Task-based material, yesterday we had been discussing a lot about the task-based syllabus and the materials that we should look for, which are more of activity-oriented, okay, rather than subject. And realia. Realia means use of real life authentic materials. For example, I want to teach you about a smartphone. So I will carry a smartphone to the class. I show it. That is realia. Clear? Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Lingaya, are you listening?
Yes, ma'am, I am listening.
Yeah, yesterday we were discussing about those materials, right?
Noted, madam. Noted.
Yeah, activity-oriented materials. You had some doubts in that.
Yes, I am collecting from you.
Okay, good. So there are three characteristic features for a true communicative activity. What are those? The first one, information gap. Second one, choice, and then feedback. Information gap, yes. I know about Abdul Kalam, but I don't know about Kalpana Chawla. But Fatima knows about Kalpana Chawla and she doesn't know about Abdul Kalam. So when we try to communicate with each other, we try to exchange these knowledge also about these persons. We try to discuss about both. So we both will have an idea about these two persons, right? There is no information gap as such. And the choice, the choice that I try to make to perform a task or to perform an activity. Okay, and then feedback. Feedback also, like, which, for example, there might be an activity on jumbled sentences. Okay, and I love that activity a lot, to arrange them in the logical order and all. But some other might want to do a role play. He or she is more interested to enact a role play. Okay, a situation as a role play. So, it depends. The feedback can be given to the teacher, and the teacher again, she analyzes, again, she comes up with a an activity. Okay, or else the existing activities can be made more interesting than the previous ones, right? And syllabus under this also is
Madam, excuse me.
yeah. Yes, Shyam Sundar.
Please explain about the choice in characteristics of teaching learning process.
Characteristics of teaching and learning process.
In process, in that second characteristic, madam, choice.
Yes, yeah.
Please explain about it, madam.
Okay, okay. So here, information gap, you are having clear idea, right? Choice is
Right,
the one,
madam.
like, I prefer reading a paragraph and converting the information in that paragraph in the form of a tree diagram. For example, yours is a big family, Shyam Sundar. Then I might ask you to tell me about about your family and the family members. So you might give me a write-up in the form of a passage. But I don't prefer that. That is not my choice. I would ask you, why don't you please make a tree diagram, a family tree diagram, and give it to me so that it becomes easy for me to understand at a glance. Okay, it is the choice of either the teacher or the learner. And here you should remember, always give importance to the choice of your students. And accordingly, you should try to adopt a method that can fulfill the needs of your students. Did you get that, Shyam Sundar?
Yes, madam. Yes, madam. Got it. Thank you, madam.
Good. So syllabus, as we were discussing in the previous class, communicative syllabus, notional syllabus, all these like which specifies semantic grammatical categories. That is not just the grammar of the language, but also the meaning that is conveyed by the language is to be focused much. And why it is to be focused much? Because these two aspects only help the learner to improve or develop his communication skills. Right?
Yes, madam.
And there were many people, Brumfitt, he proposed a grammar-based syllabus, which constitutes of the rules, the functions, and communicational activities. Okay? So this is all about this. And now comes the task-based learning and teaching. Okay, I want you people to open the textbook here, task-based one. We can discuss the task and other things. Page number 208. So, task-based learning and teaching is to some extent, it is a part of communicative language teaching only. And this communicative language teaching forms the base for the formation of this task-based language teaching approach or method. Okay, and that as the name implies, it is all about the task. And what are the characteristics of a task? According to Skihan, a task is taken to be an activity. It is an activity in which meaning is primary. That any activity, see, simply I just can't give you a graph or a pie diagram or else a Venn diagram as such. And I say that, you know what is a Venn diagram? We'll try to draw this one.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
We're going to that white sheet. I mean, the first years were doing that. Where is that? Like, I can go. Achha, sharing the screen.
Share screen, ma'am. Share screen.
Yeah, whiteboard.
Yeah, white.
Yesterday I learned this. Okay, color is black. Fine. See, who is trying that? Why others are using?
Actually, you have an option where you can enable them.
How dear? Where is that?
When you go on the screen, share screen, you will have annotate option. Actually, this is a problem right now. This is faced by every teacher.
But that is very bad, no?
Bad. We can make out who is doing that. The name reflects actually.
Socio-cultural, what is that? Under linguistic competence, socio-linguistic competence, you should have that. And mostly.
And there is also another alternative.
Okay, fine. Again, I'll forget this. I have given a Venn diagram like this. Some diagram. And here I wrote 55%, 5 people playing football.
Okay.
Okay. And 10 playing basketball. Okay. And then 4 people,
Tennis or hockey.
whatever it is. Okay,
Tennis or hockey, volleyball, whatever.
as soon as I give this task and ask my students to develop a paragraph out of the information provided here, is it sensible and meaningful?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So first point here to remember while designing a task is it should be meaningful task. If I say instead of these sports, I say that out of 19 students, say 19 total, right? Total 19 students. Out of these, 9 students are playing football and 10 students are not playing any game. That also sounds sensible. Okay. So there should be some meaning when you design a task. Okay, next one. There is some sort of relationship to the real world. If there is some sort of relationship only, the learner can understand the task better. Right? For example, I might ask him to develop a story. I'll give some hints. You should develop a story by using these hints. A magic wand, a flowing flying boat, and a small kid and all that. He might immediately think about whom? Magic wand.
Aladdin.
And what else? I mean, you become children for some time. What are your kids observing?
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter, right. I mean, they are more familiar with that. So when you can share some of the things that they know, like by watching this, every child knows that, right? If you give those hints, they easily come up and they try to build up a story on that. So that should be interesting and that should have some relationship with the real world. Or else you just talk about a tamarind tree. You ask your students to write the uses of a neem tree. Otherwise, then immediately, that should have some connection with their life, with their real world. Like, a neem tree, that is, there is a neem tree beside my house. Or when I go to my village, I found a neem, I know there's a neem tree. And for some festivals, we do make use of these neem tree twigs and all. You give some hints, connect them, then they'll show interest to solve your task. Then learners are not given other people's meaning. Always don't try to impose your thinking, your opinion on your learners. Okay? This is not a time pass thing. Fine. And next one, task completion has some priority. If they complete the task, then what happens? Why should I complete the task? So you should be accountable for that as a teacher to answer that question from the student. then the assessment of task performance is in terms of task outcome. Definitely. Whoever completes the task first, their performance levels will be high. And the one who completes lately also, the performance levels will be high. But again, you try to assess them in terms of time consumption. Okay. And there is a framework for describing a task. The following is a framework given by Roth Ellis. See here. Did you all open the text 208 and 209?
Yes, ma'am.
First, when you want to conduct a task, why you are conducting that task, you should set a goal. Okay, I want to improve the writing skills of my students. So I have to design a task for that. So what is my goal here? To improve writing skills.
Writing skill.
Okay, and then comes, okay, what input should I provide him? I'll talk about conjunctions. I'll talk about types of sentences like simple sentences, complex sentences, right? And I also talk about linking devices like conjunctions and but. When should I use consequently? When should I use and? When should I use but or in spite of? I try to explain all that to my students. So those inputs I should provide. Are you able to understand? See, in the text, that example is not there. But I'm trying to keep the text in front of you, and point-wise, I'm trying to explain this in terms of an example. Am I clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I want to give a task to my students.
ma'am.
I should set a goal. What is the goal of our task now, Maria?
Writing skills about.
To improve, to enhance the writing skills of the students.
To improve reading skills.
Writing.
You are not listening properly.
Writing skills, ma'am.
I said reading. What example I have given you? The same thing I'm trying to ask you, like what did I give you? Anyways, so we are trying to enhance the reading skills of the learners, improve the reading skills. Inputs I gave them, linking devices like all thought connectives and about other phrasal verbs, those things also, knowledge on that. I can put in some inputs there. And then conditions. I should conduct this task on the basis of a condition. And what is that condition? Okay, you have to, you have to read this paragraph and you have to represent the content in it in the form of a flow chart. So that will be the condition, right? And time also. And see that every task that you design is a time bound. Okay? And then procedures. What methodological procedure to be followed in performing that task? Okay, in my class I have 20 students, and at a time if I give this reading task to 20 students, they might, it might not be, time might not be sufficient, and the circumstances may not be so supportive. So what I'll do, I'll try to divide my students into groups. I will divide them into 5 groups, and each group will be of 5 members. 4 groups, each group will be of 5 members. Again, I'll think twice. Does this method works out? Then I say, oh, no, not all. Too many people in a group will spoil the broth. No, I don't want. And again, I'll come up with a new method. I say that no, I'll give the task to 2 people, pair work. I'll divide the students into pairs. So there will be 10 pairs, right? In that way, we should think of a procedure. That is the method that can be asked students to follow in solving that task. Then we have to predict the outcomes even before we conduct this task in the classroom, we need to know the outcomes of that task. After doing this, we'll understand how far they could comprehend the reading material. Okay, and sometimes I might give vice versa. I'll give flow charts and I'll give them all the inputs like thought connectives and all, and I'll ask them to develop that into a paragraph. And here I will test their grammar usage competency. Are they able to use the right conjunction in the right place or the right word in the right context? Okay, so I keep assessing this one, and that will be predicted as the outcomes. And then this task is hypothesized, that is what we predict. We say that yes, if I conduct this task in this way and give these instructions for my students to follow, then this whatever outcomes I predicted, that might come true. Okay, that is a thing. And here it involves both the linguistic and the cognitive processes. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Now, what is the difference between a task and an activity? Tasks generally focus on the meaning of the language used, meaning of the language that is used, whereas activity will focus on the form, the structure of the language that is used. Okay.
Okay.
So learner play a vital role here according to Rod Ellis, because they are the
Ma'am, can you please repeat the differences between the task and the activity, ma'am?
Yeah, task is an activity where we focus much on the meaning of the language that is used. Activity is an activity which focuses more on the structure, the form of the language, rather than the meaning. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
And there are different types of tasks. What are they? Information gap task, reasoning gap, opinion gap. All these three we discussed in yesterday's class. Do you remember?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Rudina is there. Ingaya is there. I could remember some of the names. Annapurna, all these people were active in yesterday's class, right? So, information gap, I told you, like the same example I'll try to note here. I'll give a bar graph regarding some information, and I'll ask you to, explain that bar graph, the information that is conveyed by that bar graph, or else
In the
pardon?
in the form of paragraph.
Yes. And one more example here in the text they gave. If A has some information and B does not have, and vice versa, that I just now told you that Fatima knows about Kalpana Chawla and I know about Abdul Kalam. But when we interact together, then we know about both of them. Right? Reasoning gap. Rearranging the list of items that had been given, jumbled sentences, scrambled sentences, and asking about practical reasoning, logical reasoning, and inductive and deductive reasoning, right? Okay, if I am the daughter of Mr. K, and Mr. K is the father of Mr. B, and Mr. B is again the uncle of Mr. A, then what is the relationship between A and K? That kind of questions. Now, all those are reasoning gap questions. And opinion, like, completion of a story or those kind of activities comes under opinion gap task. And we have games also. I told you to just find out about Rebecca Oxford's simulation of gaming, language games. There are many other activities that we can design. Then problem solving tasks and puzzles, crossword puzzles, and some other puzzles, like you just give a situation to your student, then ask him to resolve that situation. Like that situation, in a situation, for example, there might be two students who fought and who are not speaking to each other, right? And you are the best friend for both of them. But if you speak to one, the other fellow will get angry, and if you speak to the other, this fellow will get angry. So how will you resolve that situation? In this way, you are trying to inculcate some ethics also among your students, not just helping them to solve the problems of among themselves, but also to inculcate ethics. That is very important. And sharing personal experiences in the form of storytelling, anecdotes, short stories, and all, right? There might be some board games. Open page number 215. Like Ludo games,
Yes, ma'am.
Ludo games and all that. You might be having board games. See, this is a board game here on the page 215. You can just go through that. You'll have some coins and you'll have those dice also. Pachis and all that also is a board game. Ludo, Astachamma, all these are board games, right? They'll understand better. You, instead of using some things, you try to use the language there. Yeah? And ask them to connect. So what are the principles of task-based language teaching? Now, we have seen different types of task and all. Now, what are the principles? The first one is scaffolding. Here, the learners need more support from the teacher. That is obvious. And what is the duty of the teacher? She or he should provide supporting framework for the learning to happen. Like how parents support a young baby to stand. The teacher should be very supportive to the learners and help them in learning the language. Task dependency. And the task that you build there should be some improvement in the task that you design in future, right? Here one more thing, like, yes, I have designed a task today, and I conducted that and I got the feedback. I could assess the performance of the students. Then I want something more. I'll get a new idea. What I'll do for the existing task only, I'll try to add the new thing, or else I change the existing task a little bit. Okay, so that I can also fulfill what exactly I try to bring that change in my students. Okay, that will be done. Then recycling. This recycling allows learners to encounter the target language item in various situations. For example, solving puzzles, like, you take puzzles, task on puzzles. I can give crosswords like in the vertical section and in the horizontal section. That is one type. And I can think of another type where I'll be using the same words, but it will be represented in a different way, right? Those kind of activities I can think of. So I'm trying to recycle. Already I have used them, but I'm using it again in a different form. And then active learning. Yes. Under this task-based language teaching, active learning takes place because learners are always active and they are participating in the class. They're making the class more inclusive, right? Integration. Now here, the learner should be able to, they will be able to learn the grammatical aspects of the language as well as the functional aspects of the language. Functional in the sense, the meaning that gives, the meaning that is conveyed by the language that is used, And also about the intonation, the tone, the attitude, and all that falls into place. Now, reproduction to creation. Now, creativity. We need to help the learners to create. For example, any sentence you can give him, and he will recreate that. He'll try to change that, right? He might use some other word in place of the existing word, or he might bring in some change which is grammatically acceptable. Okay, so that kind of creativity also can be enhanced here under this. And reflection. Learners' reflection on their learning process will enable the learners to be conscious rather than the language content. Now, reflection here under task-based language teaching, they are not focused much on the structure, forms, rules of the language. Rather, in the presence of their friends, they try to complete that task. In the process of completion of that task, they try to focus on the functional side of the language rather than the linguistic side. But at the same time, remember, they'll be learning the grammar part of the linguistic part of the language while communicating. While communicating, they do that. Okay, and this will happen only under task-based language teaching approach. Now here there is a planning how to adopt this method and how to use this task-based language teaching in a classroom. So you have pre-planning and within task planning. Now 217 page, you can just see that diagram, tree diagram. Planning is again two types. Pre-task planning, within task planning. Pre-task, before we give the task to the students. First rehearsal. What do you mean by rehearsal?
Practice.
Practice, yes. A mock test. Suppose my students are going for a real interview. So I'll try to conduct a mock interview. That gives them practice and rehearsal. And at the same time, strategic planning. While doing that, they might try to develop some strategies to remember what teacher has said, and the teacher also will give them some guidelines which they can use those guidelines strategically in doing well in the real interview. Okay, and within task planning. Now within task planning, like he is sitting in front of the board, interview board, and here again it falls in. It is of two types: pressured and unpressured. Pressured in the sense they might be given some time, either to complete the task in a given time or to attend the interview in a given time. Answer the interviewer question within 2 minutes, if they say so. Like in labs, we have Viva Voce exam. Yes? We have Viva Voce exam where everything is time bound. So when any activity is time bound, then the learners are under pressure. Okay, and unpressured in the sense when we say that you can complete the task in 2 or 3 minutes, but you need to use the language properly. Then they says, okay, fine, they haven't put any condition for me to go ahead in using some complicated or sophisticated vocabulary. I can just use simple vocabulary and complete the task. So he is not that pressurized. Okay? Am I clear? Did you all understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, madam. Ma'am, I have a small doubt. Can scaffolding be considered as an unpressured task, ma'am?
Exactly, we can do that. See, you just try to step into the shoes of a student, learner, and just feel that. If your teacher stands supportive to you, if your teacher says, don't worry, I'm here, you just go ahead with your task completion. Then a kind of, security kind of feeling we experience as a learner, as a student. oh, my teacher is there. She will not scold me, but she'll help me out. If I get doubt, I can easily approach my teacher. Right? And that can be an unpressurized one, no? Josephine, yes?
Yes, ma'am. That's what I had a
Yeah.
doubt. So I was.
Exactly. Good. That means you are listening carefully. Very
Yes.
And this ELT is something, it is more practical rather than subjective and all like literature. It's not like literature. We need to think it in the practical environment to understand all these basic points. Right? Okay, this is all about this. Now, let us go to the humanistic approaches. So you have silent way, total physical response, and suggestopedia. What are these humanistic approaches and what are the other approaches? Humanistic approaches, generally we do say as a teacher, we always say that, no, we should impart holistic education. Right? What do you mean by holistic education?
Something that covers all aspects of a learner's development, ma'am.
Exactly. The morals, apart from the language learning, even the morals, ethics, right? All that is included. And one more thing, if the teacher is non-evaluative and she supports the learner without pointing at their weaknesses, then that method is called a humanistic approach. You might have seen some teachers, even before the student asks her a question, they make a face, very arrogant look and some kind of, face where the students get scared even to approach them. Do you agree with me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
That's
ma'am.
what we say always. Teachers enter the classroom with a smile on the face, right? Okay, so these are certain things, which we need to remember. And there are some features of these humanistic approaches. 3 features. The first one, kindness is more effective than coercion. That is what I was telling you. Always be kind to your student. Why do you be so rude and very harsh towards your student?
Madam?
Yeah.
Coercion meaning, madam, please.
Very strict, very some a fearful look kind of thing. Pardon?
Okay.
Force, ma'am. Does it also mean force?
Yeah, obviously, when we are forcing our students, how do we look? We look like villains to them. No? Yes or no? And hardly they approach us. Okay, come on, do this task. Otherwise, I'll give you punishment. That is coercion. Don't be rude. Don't be harsh. You can say the same thing. This is I have given you a task. You complete that task. Later we'll discuss. Or you'll be having a surprise gift. That is kindness. Ganesh, did you get that?
Oh.
Actually, what happened, in this situation, parents pressurizing the teachers to give punishment.
You give
So they
punishment.
are
to the
telling that,
parents.
be strict with our children.
We should
Then only
give
they will not
punishment.
take it granted.
Shailja, we should give punishment to the parents first. All the parents come, all their children want to get state first rank. Is it possible for 100 students to get state first rank? Silly.
No, ma'am.
Parents,
madam.
No, madam. Parents should change their mentality. Education. Red me, Y2, you are making me red. Okay. No reaction from your side. I sometimes tries to cry. Okay. Someone has done that. Good. So that is one. Another one, firmness is more effective than permissiveness. You can see, you can be kind, but at the same time be firm. Firm and being strict. There is a hair-thin difference between these two terms. You're able to understand? So be firm. Like when you give a task, when you ask them to complete the task within so and so time, you stick to that. If the student come and pleads you something gone wrong and he couldn't solve the task, if it is a genuine reason, then that is another issue. You can give him 5 minutes more and try to ask him to complete that. But simply talking to his friends and being like that, if he wastes his time, then don't give any grace time for them to complete the task. You just cut it down there itself. Don't always give permission. Okay. Then another feature is when students feel good about the course and about themselves, they will learn better than what they do not feel so, obviously. For example, there may be many teachers over here. You might be teaching any lesson to your students even you don't like that lesson, the topic or the content discussed in that lesson. And the students also, they also don't show much interest in attending, to that session. So what you will do as a teacher? And it is very difficult for the material developers also, to see that they include only those contents which are quite interesting to both teachers and students. It is impossible. But as a teacher, as a language teacher, what you are supposed to do? Anybody? Yeah?
We can provide teaching aids.
Teaching aids, okay, one solution to that. Anybody else?
No, ma'am. Though we are a teacher, ma'am, though we like it or not like it, it is our responsibility to teach the student. So we have to teach them, whatever it is.
If the student doesn't like it,
we have to encourage them in one or the other way, ma'am.
That is what. How you will encourage
maybe we bring it down to their level of understanding, ma'am, and then take them higher to the next level.
No, actually, when a textbook is prescribed, they will keep in mind the standard of the book.
Yes.
With their standards, right?
Yeah. Okay, maybe give real life situations.
Okay.
Bring examples and some aids.
So you can make it you can adopt a human approach here.
Yes.
As Sanjana and Josephine has said, Josephine, right? I'm pronouncing right.
Yes, ma'am.
Excuse me, madam. My idea is, I am Vasundhara. My idea is whether the student is not able in that particular subject or in all the subjects. We can think even in that way also. If he is good at a particular subject, okay, I think we can encourage, let him or her to encourage in that particular subject.
Yes.
If the student is not able to listen all the subjects, means he is below average or up to the mark. Okay, if he is good at other talents, drawing or other activities, we can encourage even in that methods also. That is my idea and opinion, madam. Whether it is good or not, I don't know.
No, good. To add to your point, Vasundhara, we can we can adopt a method of our own. For example, you said one student might not feel to read, but draw and all that, right? So here, for example, I'll give you, there is a human, circulatory system of a human, right? He might not be able to read the whole text and he'll get confused also while reading. So what we do, we can just ask him to, draw the diagram and label the parts. So half of the learning takes place there, right?
Yeah.
Neither we are deviating ourselves from the subject that is to be discussed, nor we are skipping it off. We are just going ahead with the same thing. And then after he drew that diagram and after he understands the parts of speech and all that, now you ask him to read it aloud. Now he will read.
Like a pictorial diagram.
Exactly. So we can think of, see, so many ways are there for a teacher. If she is really sincere enough in, delivering her services as a teacher, she can bring in so many changes, positive changes, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now let us see the methods of humanistic approaches. Okay. The first one is silent way, and Caleb Gettigno. He was an educator, a thinker, and a practitioner, and he made original contributions in this area. In this approach, the silent way. He had come up with this approach, the silent way, and he has pointed out 6 important features of this method. The first one, independent, autonomous, responsible, reawakens the powers, forcing awareness, subordinating teaching to learning. So here, this method, I'll explain all that. I'll just go through this. In this method, the teacher is almost silent and the learners will be doing all the talking. And learning in this method is viewed as problem solving, creative, activity oriented, where learners are considered as principal contributors rather than sole listeners. So this is a learner-centered classroom. It gives rise to a learner-centered classroom. The teachers are very silent. They are independent. Learners are independent. For example, I want to teach a poem. I'll give that poem to my students and I'll say that read that poem and try to give the summary of the poem. Whatever you have understood, you just put it in the form of a summary and submit that. And I'm silent. What they'll do, they are independent now. They read that poem. Okay. And they know they themselves will act and, they themselves will try to understand what is there in that poem. They try to relate it with their own life, real life, right? So they'll be independent and they'll be autonomous also. That's their wish. They might read it line by line, or they can just read only the content words in a given write-up. It's up to them. We are not imposing any kind of force on them. We are not trying to compel them to read like this only, to do like this only. Okay? We just left them. And here, when we leave that to them, they become more responsible because they know that, okay, teacher is not interfering in our work. That means I should do everything, right? I am responsible. I should complete this task. Okay, that kind of feeling they will develop. Once they develop that kind of feeling, then the innate talents or the hidden abilities or the powers are reawakened. Okay, and then what do? Once they realize their powers, they try to become more, they try to become, they feel that they are skilled people to solve that particular task easily. Prior to that, they might be treated as slow learner or something like that. But when we leave them like this, they feel that, yes, I can also do. I know I will do this. So this is what I can do, I will do. They will, this transition takes place in their understanding, thinking and understanding. Then subordinating teaching to learning. Now they don't require anything to be taught on that. Now they are the sole learners, right? They will be learning. They are the teachers for themselves and they are the learners. Okay. Clear? Got it? Did you all understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Sleeping or what?
No.
Nicely, you are making me awake and you all are sleeping, huh?
No, madam.
No, ma'am.
Very good. Okay. So in this method, what could be the aids or the equipments that can be used in the classroom? This is all very easy. You see, you can just read out 223. It's a Fidel chart which consists of blocks of different colors and a black background. Each block of color represents a different sound in the target language. Like we can prepare Fidel charts, and for speech sounds, consonant sounds and vowel sounds, what we do, we give different colors for each speech sound, and through the colors we can identify. So we'll be learning that on ourselves. Okay. Another one is a spelling chart also, Fidel spelling chart and Fidel vocabulary chart. Vocabulary chart in the sense one word you can give, and you can give n number of synonyms and antonyms of the same word, and we can ask the students to find out, to list out all the synonyms that you could see on this chart and list out all the antonyms that could be seen in the chart. Okay, then Cuisenaire rods. These are colored wooden rods of different lengths, each of which stands for different words or sounds. They are used to build up words and sentences. It helps in the formation of the words. It helps in the learning the right structure of the sentences. Okay, and these rods will help to avoid the vernacular language. What do you mean by vernacular language?
Regional, localized language.
Yes, local, mother tongue.
Mother tongue.
Yeah. To create simple linguistic situations that are under the complete control of the teacher, and to pass on the learners the responsibility for the utterance of the descriptions of the objects shown or action performed. I mean, these rods are responsible for helping the learners, to understand and to learn and to design activities for themselves. Okay, the whole gist of it is this, and more also. Yes. And sometimes, there are different signs used by the teacher in the classroom. They have given here 227 page. You can just see. Okay, when you show the palm like this, wow. Right? Did you all open 227 page?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and all these they have talked about the rods, the colors, and all these things. For example, they have given to teach how to teach a sentence in English. The book is on the table. So for the articles, there are two. The article is repeated twice in this sentence. The book is on the table. It is there. You can see on page 227. The article will take pink color. Article will take red color. The verb is will take purple color. On will take green color. Right now they will arrange these colors with the help of these Cuisenaire rods. And now they will arrange those colors like that, and each colored rod they know, like they'll write it up, and thus they will learn the sentence. Do you feel that this is easy? I feel it is complicated. No? What do you say?
Implication in the classroom is very difficult.
Very difficult at home. Like, building blocks, we purchase building blocks for our kids. It is something okay at homes, but in the classroom it is very difficult. So the silent way method, it adopts a structural approach to teaching. Structural approach in the sense it focuses much on the learning of structures of the language, correct structures of the language, and learning vocabulary is the central dimension of language learning. Vocabulary is divided into various classes. semi-luxury vocabulary, luxury vocabulary, that is sophisticated one, and a simple vocabulary. Right? Daily expressions that fall under simple or semi-luxury vocabulary, and sophisticated or luxury vocabulary is the one is vocabulary that is used for a specialized idea, like a philosophical ideas or political ideas, etc. Then what are the techniques and materials that go into this silent way method? Techniques: oral work precedes written work. That means they orally first discuss and then they will take up the writing part. Second one, memorization of vocabulary is replaced by recognition. Like the rods, they don't memorize the book is on the table, but they arrange the colored rods in that form of the sentence, and they will try to recognize the colors, and through that colors they recognize yes, pink color goes with the article the, in that way. So correction is seldom part of the teacher's work. Very rarely teacher will get an opportunity to correct the students. And materials, a set of colored wooden rods or a set of wall charts containing words of a functional vocabulary or some other one. Okay, and Fidel charts or phonic code or tapes or disc, all these are materials that go into this silent way method. Drawing pictures and text. 3 text: sentences to read separately, sentences to be read consecutively, and a book of stories. A worksheet also on the whole language. It will help the learners to work on their own and on their own pace, and they try to revise and learn the lessons at school. 3 anthologies and films. You can also include them in the materials. So in this way, the silent way method, the teacher builds on what learners already know. Already the learner is aware, like he knows what is a book, he knows what is a table, but the way he learns to structure it correctly, grammar wise, that will be learnt in this method. Next one, total physical response. Okay, am I clear till now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So physical response, again, it is an approach to teaching a second language, and it is a method developed by Dr. James Asher, a psychologist, experimental psychologist, to help learning second languages. And this bases its principles on the way a child learns the first language. Now here the teacher will give command and the learners will perform the action. That is, listening comprehension of the learners is improved or developed or enhanced. Okay, and the theory of the learning is like Asher believed that learners can acquire the grammatical structure of a language and internalize its cognitive map. He further said that language can be internalized in chunks rather than in isolation. Like the book on, if you isolate each one and teach them, that might not be that effective. But when you teach the students as a sentence, as a whole, the book is on the table, that will have a more effective, that will have a great impact on the learning process, because they also think through their mind. Okay, right? Then in the classroom of total physical response, teacher gives a very simple command. For example, she says stand up or sit down, and the learners will follow that. And if they don't follow the command, then the teacher will show them stand up means what, like what they should do and what they shouldn't do. Then teacher might add some more words. Boys stand up, so only boys will stand. Girls sit down, only girls will sit. Right? In couple of minutes, they will learn, boys stand up and girls. Right? All these words are learnt. So they have given an example activity also on 232. Students perform at their seats. Each student has a kit such as interior of a kitchen. Okay, the teacher says in the target language, put the man in front of the sink. So they'll be learning which is the sink and all, and they'll put the man in front of the sink. And with the help of a playboard, the teacher first she will do the task, and then the students will perform the same task, right? And grammar is taught inductively, like through sentences only by using playground. She says the man standing in front of the sink and all. So they try to learn it in that way. And there are many activities also that go into this, like physical actions, for example. Then conversational dialogues also can be used here. Like you can give everyday situations. Yes, you are trying to buy vegetables at the supermarket. How would you ask the person over there? Like, those exchange of dialogues, those kind of activities can be administered. And materials like, most of the time the teacher uses realia, like books, pens, furniture, chalk. Never say chalk piece of chalk, duster, blackboard, etc. Right? All that is used in the classroom. So next one is Suggestopedia. And this is a method proposed by Georgi Lozanov, a Bulgarian doctor of medicine and psychiatry. This is based on the principle of joy and easiness. Okay, it aims to help learners to overcome the feeling that they cannot be successful, and so removes their mental barriers to learning. The three main principles goes like this. Joy and psycho-relaxation. Learners will be able to use their hidden potentials only if they feel relaxed and happy. Yes, if they are tensed up, they even forget what they know, right? So first, they should be happy and relaxed in the classroom. Now, second one, gaining access to and activating the reserve powers of the learner's mind. Now, the mind will be under the control of the learner himself, and he tries to activate his mind when and where it is required, because he is in the relaxed mode now. A harmonious collaboration of the conscious and the unconscious on the part of the learner. He might learn it consciously. Most of the time, learning takes place consciously. And unconsciously also, sometimes if he is happy, he can just listen to that and he can just go ahead. In the Suggestopedia classroom, the following setup can be seen. Posters, charts, music can be used as aids. And the classroom should have comfortable chairs, very good ventilation, and comfortable chairs for the learners to relax. And the chairs can be arranged in a semicircle. These things will go with the lower sections of the school, I think. Not high school level, but middle school level, or those classes, I think this will be okay. And special care is taken about the lighting. Lighting, yes, proper lighting also should be there, proper ventilation. And this method, it helps the learners to listen to the soothing music while doing the task. They might be asked to close their eyes and do some relaxation exercises. They might also given some new identities like delegates at a conference, tourists, or people trying to get in a role in a play or a film. You introduce them to some new identities, new characters. Then they can have dialogues exchange, all right? And they might, after that, they might listen to their own dialogues, which will be read by the teacher more than once sometimes. And reading, while they read, a soft background music is played, and learners will follow the dialogues. Only they should follow the dialogues. They have nothing to do on the stage or nothing to do here. Then the class ends, the learners will be given the dialogue and are asked to practice. In the next class, learners take roles. Now they will enact those roles and try to deliver the dialogues that they have listened to in the previous class. and questions will be asked in the target language about the dialogue. The task, which the learners have to do will have some connection with the pleasurable game principle. For example, teacher throws a ball and the person who catches it does the task. I mean, they say, I will do the task, ma'am. Teacher can't give the task to all of them, but she says, okay, I'll throw a ball, whoever catches that person will be doing that task in that way. And other activities also can be done using games, role plays, okay, some creative language work, activities, etc. And then this is the first cycle. And the other cycle again begins with the dialogue. Now, the principles of this method are, learning takes place really best in a relaxed and happy atmosphere, that we all agree. And sufficient listening time is also given to the learners. And then role plays, all of them will be involved in that, more than 2 or 3 students. So the students will not be threatened in any way, either by the teacher nor by the circumstances. And the actual goal of learning the target language is achieved, and it is emphasized through this method. Fine arts like soft music, drama, art are also integrated into the teaching learning process. The atmosphere, then material, methods and techniques, all these help the learners have a open-minded attitude to learn. Okay. And suggestion is the main underlying meaning of Suggestopedia. Suggestopedia suggests that best learning results can happen in a relaxed state. The same thing is told by Georgi Laszlo and is believed by him. Okay, got it?
Ma'am, so we can say that this Suggestopedia is also like a humanistic approach, ma'am?
Obviously, all these approaches, no? So it is a humanistic approach because the teacher is not trying to monitor them. She's just giving her suggestions. Like she says that, come on, relax, then be happy, get relaxed. And she'll try to give the task to them. And there also, the students are not left alone on themselves. They are paired with somebody else, and together, they do it with joy. Okay, that is also a humanistic approach, of course. And now there were so many methods, traditional methods, modern methods, all, but no single method can be said firmly that this is the best method. Okay, and here, after going through all these methods and approaches, there is no single approach or method which will work efficiently. Day to day, and each and every approach or method has its own disadvantages. Then they want to think something alternative for this method. So, and there was one alternative to the methods. The first one is eclectic method. Okay, and this began in 1990s, and it has become, it is being used even today. Okay, and here in this method, language is learnt as a whole, not in bits and parcels, like not, no, I should learn only pronunciation, I should learn only grammar, only vocabulary. It's not like that. It is learnt as a whole, and it must be holistic. That is a condition for this eclectic method. Both Larson and Freeman and Mello, they have used the term principled eclecticism to describe a desirable, coherent, pluralistic approach to language teaching. And this eclecticism involves the use of a variety of language learning activities. And each of these activities might have different objectives and different characteristics. Okay, the different components of language like pronunciation, grammar, vocabulary, etc. They have no meaning when they are isolated from each other, obviously. When I say the boy, the cat is on the table. So if I teach them as a sentence as a whole, I can teach them the structure of the sentence. I can teach them the vocabulary. I can teach them the punctuation. I can teach them the pronunciation. I can teach them the intonation as a whole. So this is what is happening under this eclectic method. And this is a method where we can say that it is a combination of different approaches and methods. See, to teach grammar, I might say SVO pattern, I might explain the student the grammar rules, the related grammar rules. At the same time, I might also tell them how to structure the words in a sentence, subject, verb, and then object. So then if they don't understand, I can sometimes use my mother tongue to make them understand. Or sometimes, I can use audiolingual method within this method. So it is a mixture of methods, right? And what is a theory? I mean, this eclecticism, it also involves use of variety of language learning activities. That one we have done, and each activity might be different from the other. One activity, the objective of one activity might be to improve the language skills of the learner. Another activity, the objective of another activity might be to improve the pronunciation of the learners or to improve the vocabulary of the learners. Okay, every activity has its own objective. And what is the theory behind this? The theory here under this, language is based on structures which are used to convey meanings and which perform functions, not just conveying the meaning but also performs function. Okay, and what are the teaching materials that can be used here? It has different worksheets and blackboard. The role of a teacher is roughly equal to that of the role of the teacher in communicative language teaching. I mean, very passive role. She'll be only a facilitator guiding the students while conducting the class and also making the teaching learning process systematic. And role of the learner, this is a learner-centered one. Learner plays a very important role, very active role here because these learners, they are the active participants in the classroom and they are supposed to solve all these learning activities all by themselves. On page 243, you can just read out activity 1, activity 2, right? Some activities they have given here. And eclecticism involves the use of a variety, all these activities, 5 activities, which have different objectives and characteristics. And another alternative method, this is very important, Kumara Vadivelu's concept of alternative to method. According to Kumara Vadivelu, language teaching methods are classified into 3 types. Language-centered methods, learner-centered methods, and learning-centered methods. Remember, there are 3 types, okay, according to Kumara Vadivelu. Language-centered methods include grammar translation method, lingual method. Yes.
Kumara Vadivelu is from Tamil Nadu, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so here in language-centered methods like grammar translation method, audio-lingual method, here what is happening, the teacher introduces the language structure and helps the students to practice those structures. And the students are the passive recipients here, okay? And learner-centered methods, here the students are the active participants and the teacher is a mere facilitator or a guide, okay? And here, the best example here is a method of communicative language teaching, right? And the learners will get enough opportunities to practice all these grammatical structures as well as communicative functions of the language. Now, learning-centered methods, these are mainly concerned with the learning process, like how we learn our mother tongue in a natural way. In the same way, the natural approach is the best example for learning-centered methods. That means you see, in all these three types, if they are amalgamated, then it forms an Kumara Vadivelu's concept of alternative to method. Clear? Say yes or no, Sweetie?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, madam.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, what is Kumara Vadivelu termed this one as a post method, right? According to him, the methods do not execute the factors which may lead to the success or failure of the classroom instructions, which consist of teacher cognition, learner perception, societal needs, cultural context, political exigencies, institutional constraints, etc. That means whichever method, like, the circumstances might demand a particular method today and tomorrow another method. So we just adopt that. We try to mix up two or more methods also. And the final goal is to see that our learners are learning the language. Okay. And the post method pedagogy. And there are three principles of post method pedagogy. The first one, parameter of particularity, parameter of practicality, and the parameter of possibility. Parameter of particularity. What is this? Okay, I want to, for example, my students want to do their higher education in a foreign university. So they want to improve their language skills, right? So what I'll do, I might have a group of teachers who are well acquainted, equipped with the knowledge of training the students in that direction. Okay, so what I'll do, is it time?
3:38 minutes.
Sir has joined, I think. Ashok sir, you have Ashok sir's class? Okay. So this is all about, if you have any doubts, you can just ask me. We'll discuss on that. Okay?
It's okay, fine, no problem.
Sir, just 5 minutes.
Hello?
Sir.
నేను క్లాస్ లో ఉన్నాను, మీరు ఏం లేదు, మీకు అది తెలిసినట్టుగా చేయండి. అందరు స్టూడెంట్స్ కి ఎట్లా చేస్తారో అట్లనే చేయండి సార్.
Okay, then you can just go through that macro strategies and
వాడండి, నో అదేనండి, వాడండి, నో ప్రాబ్లం. They had the
I will give the summary, the notes for all this.
Okay, continue with
If you have any doubts, you can ask me. Did you all understand? Now I am ending the class. This is my last class.
Yes.
All the best.
Okay.